some, Tito Torbellino was viewed as an outsider to the norteño genre. Torbellino was American-born and did not hesitate to pen songs about the crime and intrigue of his ancestral home, Sonora, Mexico. Some say that Tito's honesty made him famous. Others say it made him a target. Tito Torbellino was born on May 24, 1981, in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. Tito was in fact born with the name Tomas Tovar Rascon to parents of Mexican descent. His father, Tomas Tovar, worked locally in Phoenix as a construction worker, while his mother, Cleotilde, cared for the 4 children and the few farm animals they owned. Life was simple for the family until tragedy struck during the summer of 1989. Father Thomas Tovar was speeding past the intersection of 14th and Roosevelt before eventually colliding with a car full of 3 passengers. All of those involved were rushed to the hospital in critical condition. From looking through later obituary mentions, it appears that the only casualty was Thomas Eduardo Tovar, Sr., aged 32 years old. This hardship forced a young Tito to mature quickly in order to help his mother care for his sisters. He would begin to work fast food jobs and eventually drop out of North High School at the age of 14. Growing up in Phoenix, Tito learned from an early age to dislike American pop music and instead favor norteño and banda music. After his father's passing, his mother sold what was left of the family's farm animals and with that money, bought young Tito an accordion. Inspired by Narcocorridos like Chelino Sanchez, Tito decided to pursue music full-time and find himself an accompanying band. Although Tito is said to have always been singing and playing the accordion, his career began around the year 2002 as the frontman of Torbellino. From early on, it was clear that Tito was a talented songwriter, and his style lended best towards the corrido. According to the Arizona Republic, he began his career performing for $100 a night at Mr. Lucky's Club in Phoenix. Research indicates Tito played several shows here during the early 2000s, up until the club closed in 2007. Tito's fame remained relatively local to Arizona until 2004, when his records started to find success south of the border. Tito had a talent for writing corridos based on his real stories, sourcing his inspiration from local gangsters, newspapers, and the internet. Despite this, Tito claims to have never fabricated his work. By 2007, it was clear that his music had strong ties to the Sinaloan cartel, and on his group's release, Esta de Paranda El Jefe, 5 tracks stand out as clear indications. Torres' son was murdered by members of the rival cartel, Beltran Leyva, in 2008, and reportedly lost his mind and went on a killing spree. Named one of the most wanted drug traffickers in 2011 as part of the Kingpin Act, along with his associate Manuel Torres. Nicknamed the Stew Maker, allegedly dissolved upwards of 300 bodies in caustic soda and supported smuggling efforts of the Sinaloan and Tijuana cartels. The nephew of C1, he battled for control of the Caborca Plaza and is believed to have been targeted by El Chapo and El Mayo. Another song released that year was written in honor of Julio Beltran, a figure linked to a branch of the Sinaloan cartel, the Beltran Leyva cartel. Julio's fate can be considered foreshadowing for Tito's eventual end. Infighting within the Sinaloan cartel led to El Chapo Guzman ordering a hit on Julio. Alliances shifted quickly for the groups from 2008 onwards, and they eventually found themselves on opposite sides. Sometimes you can make too many friends. It was also around this time that Tito met fellow member of Gypsy Records, Jose Juan Segura, otherwise known as El JJ, or El Padrino. El JJ is a well-known producer, promoter, and manager of regional music. One of the groups on his rosters includes Los Cuates de Sinaloa, featured on AMC's Breaking Bad. Around this period, Tito's rising fame earned himself a record deal from Sony International Music. Noticeably, the releases were now from Tito Torbellino and featured only the front man on the cover. Tito would marry his girlfriend of 7 years in 2009 and eventually become the father of 3 children. From 2009 to 2013, he would commission songs on the following subjects. Although his catalog had its fair share of love songs and ballads, his corridos seemed to bring in the money. Tito would frequently tour Arizona and northern Mexico, performing both public and private shows. Despite Tito's rising fame, he was not loved everywhere. Perhaps it was his flaunting of guns on social media or the songs he had written for rival cartels. No matter the cause, his rising fame would bring trouble for the musician in 2014. During early 2014, he would have 3 charting titles on the regional Mexican airplay chart. 2 of these would also go on to reach the Latin Billboard charts. Tito was also in the midst of working on a full-length movie, acting in the lead role as El Philly. He claimed the story wasn't based on his own life, but instead it was based on a true account of someone else's life. The movie was produced by Pepe Garza, a known star maker in the regional music scene. He has promoted such artists as Jenny Rivera, Valentina Elizalde, and close friend of Tito, Espinoza Paz. Despite the trailer and soundtrack release in early 2014, El Philly would never see the light of day. With Torbellino's increasing status, he was invited to perform at the 2014 Santa Rita Fair, with a performance marked for May 31st, 2014. Tito would be billed alongside other major acts like Los Tigres del Norte, Calibra 50, and Gerardo Ortiz. That was until the Chihuahua City Council decided to veto the performance of Gerardo Ortiz and demand artists play absolutely no Narcocorridos. Tito, alongside with Calibra 50 and Tucanes de Tijuana, refused to give in and had the performance canceled. Tito was still booked to play in Ciudad Obregón on the Friday, May 30th, so he traveled to Sonora in the place of his parents' roots. Tito was eating lunch at a sushi restaurant in town when 2 to 6 armed men stormed the scene and opened fire at his group. Although Tito was not alone, he was the only one struck with bullets. The wounds would prove to be fatal. Thomas Tavao Rascon would pass away at the age of 33, leaving behind a wife and 3 children. 2014 would see the star of Tito Torbellino reach new heights, but it would come at the ultimate price. In classic Narcocorrido fashion, the infamy of Tito's death would push his fame even higher. 3 of his singles would reach the Latin Billboard charts following the week of his funeral. The funeral would also introduce the world to Tito's son, named in honor of his late father. Tito Torbellino Jr. would pursue his own music career, eventually releasing his music on Tito Torbellino Legacy Records. After initially reporting no leads in the investigation, a report surfaced in Mexican newspapers on July 18th that Tito's killer had been found at a party in Hermosillo, Sonora. It was reported that 26-year-old Carlos Monte Pacheco fired multiple 9mm rounds at a 45-year-old female victim, who would pass away later at the local hospital. It just so happened that a member of the state police was at the same party and recognized Carlos and decided to neutralize the suspect before he could be questioned. That appears to be either incredible timing or perhaps something deeper was going on. Carlos was a former university football player for the Sonora Institute of Technology and was believed to be a sicario for the Beltran Leyva cartel. While researching the event, it appeared that the American media stopped short at Carlos and claims he was the killer with no listed motive. However, Mexican publications would reveal that the hit was believed to be ordered by El Cadete Quintero Navidad. It is believed that the rift between the Sinaloan and Beltran Leyva cartels left the plaza bosses in Sonora furious at Narcocorridos who maintained support for the rival side. Navidad even earned himself the nickname El Mata Musicos for his targeting of musicians. In addition to Tito, Navidad is believed to unsuccessfully ordered hits on Alfredo, Olivias, and Javier Rosas. Despite Tito's new level of fame after his passing, his family would ultimately not receive the benefits of his work. In a 2016 interview with Tito's old friend LJJ Padrino, he revealed the fact that he continues to own the rights to all of the music he recorded with Torbellino. LJJ is currently battling active lawsuits against former artists in dispute of rightful song royalties. He also claims to still have countless recordings of Tito that are unreleased, and urges people to follow Tito for some time. The life of Tito Torbellino can be considered a cautionary tale for rising stars everywhere. Be wary of who you call your friends.